Hello, everyone. My name is Oladele Ayorinde, and I'm happy to welcome you to the Organ House concert and seminar series today. Of course, it's a raining day, but it's also uh, an exciting one for that moment because it's Organ House kind of seminar series, and we are having a quite let's say a different edition, an interesting one, and also something that promises to open us to different layers of engagement or advance our initial point of entry. So for some of you or some of us join us for the first time, this is the Organ House concert and seminar series. By that, we mean a space of music exploration, music conversation, and I mean artistic, engagement in terms of composition, music research, music business, like we're having today, as well as issues around music and performances. We have concerts, programming. We have symposiums around archive. We have archival projects going on here also. Then we also have, uh, you know, curatorial work that brings together artistic research with public facing work. But today's conversation is quite unique in its own sense because it's engaging something that we all say is the elephant in the room. And by that, I mean the source of all the music productivity, where the value is being analyzed, being seen, made visible to the world and people. So I mean the music business, or what people say, the business of music. Some call it the music industry. Some call it issues of music management. But let's see, these are the issues we want to explore today. I hope you will be, witty hand and engage in this conversation. So what we do at the Organ House series is very simple. We have a conversation and we open the platform for our friends online to have to ask their question. I would definitely invite you at the right time to join the conversation. So just take your time, relax, and let's follow what comes after now. Yeah, I promise you will enjoy it and you will like it. I also have a few announcements. We have a project, we have a conference, we have a seminar, a symposium coming in July. I will provide more details on that in between this process as we navigate today's agenda. Also, I will share our media pages, YouTube infos, online documentation space with you. I'm sure some of you who have been part of us on this platform, you know about this, but I will also, talk about this in the process also. But to start with, I'd like to formally, welcome our friend, I can call him brother, of course, professional colleagues, expert. Yes, it's also a scholar, of course. Then, most importantly, he's a musician. Then, most importantly, in the context of today, our friend, our presenter, is actually a music management consultant or expert. Yeah, I'm talking in the person of Mr. Adedeji Aremu. So, Mr. Deji, thanks so much for joining us today. Thank you for your time. Thank you for creating the time. And thank you for honoring our invitation. It's not so easy to grab, or let's say to get hold of people like you in Nigeria of today, or let's say in contemporary Africa, because the music business, the music industry seems to be the elephant in the room across every conversation. So thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Dr. Ayo, Dr. Ladile. Thank you so much for having me. And I mean, your introduction was very, very fantastic. I don't know if you have that like written somewhere or you've been practicing for a while. That was really, really good. Very, very good. Thank you very much. Thank you. And for all our friends, in the session, I hope that today's conversation is going to be a lot more, should I say, insightful and open our eyes to how the music business space run. the music industry and the music business are two different things entirely, right? There is the music industry and then there is the music business, right? And I know that sounds somehow, it sounds funny, but yeah, I mean, music industry basically is basically what we all see. You know, the music is out, the artist lifestyle and all that, but the music business is what we really don't have information about, what we don't see unless you play in that space, right? It's about the processes, it's about numbers, finances, yeah, everything around, back end stuff. And we're going to be talking a little bit about those things more today. Not maybe we're not going to be talking so much about like the front end stuff, like what we see is a lot of back end stuff, which is where I play. And yeah, so yes, I think we can start,
Yeah,
I
I think
guess.
thank you so much. I think the first thing we need to do, of course, I have introduced in my own way, and thanks for the kind word. Yeah, that wasn't written anywhere, of course. It's for
Now,
yeah, but what's important, I want you to introduce yourself to our friends, of course. It's better, I think it's better
okay.
that way because from the horse's mouth. Then also many people are joining for the first time. They've seen your name around. So I really want them to hear from you, So let's just, by the way, just let our friends know, let them know you, who you are.
Okay. Okay. Well, I mean, just as my name is written on the screen, and like you said, my name is Adedeji Aremu. I am a music business professional, talent manager, and a creative entrepreneur, right? And the word creative entrepreneur is relatively new, I guess. It's basically someone who does business, an entrepreneur in the creative sector, the creative space. And well, of recent times, we've seen that there's such a thing as the creative sector now. And it's beginning to gain attention from from government angle to private businesses and all that stuff. So yeah, I manage talents. I currently manage an artist called Dotty the Deity, and I consult for a couple other talents. Right now, I run a company called Great World. Great World is a talent management, talent development, and event company. And one of part of the initiatives that we have, aside managing talents, again, like I said, we develop talents. And one of the ways we get to do this is to, we have a podcast called Great Talk, that launched not too long ago, where we talk about the business of creativity. We get professionals. Just flip this, where I get to be the host and then I interview someone else who plays in the role, who plays in the industry. And it's not just music, film, anything that has to do with the creative sector. And well, again, part of how we develop talent is we curate events, a monthly event called Roots and Rhythm. Roots and Rhythm is a jazz and folk music platform, where artists who play in that genre, can use that platform to get access to certain kind of audience. And even those audience can even use the platform to get access to those acts, right? Because I mean, in today's world, when you mention Nigeria, the first thing everybody is thinking is Afrobeat. And I do say, if I do say so myself, I think there is more in terms of music to give, from Nigeria outside of Afrobeat. And that's what, Roots and Rhythm is doing through, the parent company, Great World. I would say this is the part that I don't like to really go into. But again, since you're saying I should get people to know me, I yeah, I have some certifications from London School of Business Administration, as a strategic business person, a strategic business professional, and I have a mini MBA from the International Institute of Business, Berlin, IBM. Um, and yeah, like I said, I consult. I just do stuff. Yeah, I hope that's enough.
Yeah, definitely. It does it. Thank you so much. And
Yeah,
thank you. Of course, I really wanted you to do that because, like you have just clarified, many people, and this is not a negative thing, by the way, don't know the
yeah,
difference between music business and music industry.
okay,
Yeah, yeah. In fact, there's another hiding name in between, another one, the business of music or the business in music, But we are going to unpack all this today. Yeah. So for some of us joining us for the again, just joining us, thank you. Welcome to the Organ House concert and seminar series today. So let's today, let's create a kind of very, very smart, overview of what we're going to engage. So we're going to engage, let's say, up to 4 or 5 or 6 questions, you know, engaging issues like what is music business, music industry, issues of right and royalties, record deals and contracts, music marketing and promotion, live shows, touring, digital distribution and streaming, and and the last one is the building a team, which is very important. These are things we hardly talk about, also not only in music business, generally in the
Yeah, I
particularly in the
agree.
yeah, yeah. So let's start from somewhere. I think the first thing is this big question that looks simple, fragile, yet complicated. What is this notion, the term, music business?
Okay, so in simple form, I think the music business really is about hold on.
Okay.
The music business really is about the back end of the music industry. And when I say back end, I'm talking about numbers. I'm talking about streams, for example, sales, artist identity, um, finances, putting your finances together. I'm talking about representatives, right? So when I mean representative, I mean like your agent, your talent manager, your A&R, your producer, getting all that together into one park. Think about an
Mm,
organizational structure, right? When you
yeah.
see a business, you say, oh, this business, they make noodles, for example, or they make chin chin, right? Now,
Mm,
the act of selling chin chin and, distributing the chin chin to wherever it's going to and people buying it, the retail and the wholesale, that's like the music industry, right? But the
mm,
music business is actually the activity that goes on in the building,
mm,
right? From one document submitted to the, oh, we're trying to procure, we're trying to buy, more flour and sugar. And then the bureaucracy with that, with, oh, we can't sign off, this amount is too expensive. Somebody's bringing a cheaper one to say, oh, we can get the same thing at a cheaper amount. All that, politicking, pitching, and then somebody's, defending a particular product to say, I think this product is going to do well in the market if we do XYZ. And someone is saying, no, this other product is already doing well. Why do we need to launch a new product? All that back and forth, all that strategic conversations and, politicking, if I will put it that way. That is
mm,
what the music business really is, right? How you move from point A to point B without anybody seeing what is really going on, but they are seeing the results. The result is what
mm,
happens in the music industry, where your artist is being booked, at an event, or you release a song and the song is doing well. What are the metric? What are the things, the activities that are really making the song do well? On those platforms that they are doing, is it the marketers behind those songs? There are PR agents behind those songs. There are representatives going to say, there's somebody handling the radio runs, there's somebody handling the TV runs, there's somebody handling the imagery of the artist or the particular song. And that's why sometimes you see certain artists are out and you're hearing that, oh, they represent the sad, demography. This artist sings sad songs. And then all of a sudden, a couple years down the line, they've metamorphosed. They move into an artist that sings happy songs. There is a thought process behind those things, right? Behind those phases. There are thought processes, and those processes, those strategies, those decisions are what happens in the music business space.
mm,
And that's why you find a lot of times a lot of music business executive are not musically inclined, right? Some of them don't even listen to music as widely as you expect that they listen to music. That's why you find that the music industry, a record label, for example, is hiring an accountant, someone that knows nothing about music but knows numbers. The music industry is hiring a marketer, someone that doesn't even consume music in that sense, but is great at marketing, can ideate, can bring campaigns to, yeah. So those are the people that play in the music industry, in the music business, right? Now, the whole thing, if you look at the whole thing holistically and you want to put them in a box, you can call it like the music industry, right? The industry of music. But again, like I said, we've gone further, in this sector to separate them. And the reason we've separated them or the reason there's some sort of separate is so that we know who is playing at what point, right? We know who is playing on this side, who is playing on this side, right? Sometimes there are cross sections, for example. For example, someone like myself who studied music and understands the act of performance, understand the act of being a musician, right? Who is now playing in the executive part. I'm like a cross section between both. I'm like a bridge joining both together. And that is why it is important. That's why I think that is a win for anybody who have people like myself on their team, because we understand what it means to be an artist or to be the product, and we understand what it means to make the decision that pushes the product and places the product on a global scale or on a local, depending on what the territory that you're looking to conquer at the moment, right? So I hope that gives some clarity to the idea
Yeah,
between the music industry and then the music business.
thank you so much. Of course, I have a few pointers here and there, and more like something like follow up, which can further, help us navigate and get more insight into this interesting, explanation. So the first one is you explain the notion of music business, the music industry. Then, at what point, or I'll put it this way. So you explain that okay, hiring all the processes, that produces a visible product. I like that explanation. That's an interesting one. But you use this within the context of music recording industry, or let's say uh, popular music or performing industry, live performance, not fully entered. But what about the other side? That I also know that both of us share. The classical music industry. Is it not part of this ecosystem? The classical music, the in yeah, the classical music, which is quite heavy in Nigerian context, heavy on performances, patronage here and there.
So, I think that's a very, 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 very good question. And I mean, being a scholar and someone who had his time, in the classical music corridor, um, I've stepped out for a bit and I've been watching that part of the industry for a bit. And I think that it's high time some level of responsibility, is taken by that side of the music. I don't want it's not because it's not a different industry. It's still music, right? It's just genre based, right? The genres are different, right? So there's rock, there's classical, there's this, there's that. And the word classical in itself signifies something vintage, something that has a traditional history, right? And we can then link that history to where? Is it classical African? Is it African classics? Is it European classics, for example? So if you're talking about the Andels, the Mozart, and the likes, we're talking European classics, right? If you're talking about the Showande, the Ayo Bankole, the Fela Showande, Ayo Bankole, and our greats, we're talking about the African classics in a way, even though they
Yeah.
had, European, Western background, right? Now, the mistake we make is that we try to separate them. We try
Mm.
to say, oh, because I'm a classical musician, right? I can't really get into the music industry as it is in my locality or in my environment. So I'm a different breed, right? So we don't bother to understand the science between the science, of the music business. We are not interested in understanding the science of the music industry. So we set ourselves apart. We go to school, we come out, and at most we end up teaching, in schools or teaching kids, right? If we're lucky, we maybe play the organ or play the piano or whatever in a church or and wait for gigs, right? And I think that the reason, again, like I said, the reason for that is we are so purist in our thoughts and we separate ourselves. We don't want to engage with these things. And it is still the music industry, whether you like it or not, right? Because your skill as a classical musician or as classically trained has a role to play in the secular music industry. All right. What makes it secular is not necessarily what you play. What makes it secular is because you play in a social space. You play in a space where everybody plays. Your human interaction. Do you get what I mean? In that on
Yeah.
that end, right? That's what makes it secular, right? So why would you want to run away? If I mean, it's funny because you study classical music, you're not interested in this, or you don't know that you need this. Even our conservatories and our music schools, don't have music business on their, curriculum to learn, right? And it's just, for example, there was a day I was thinking of a song. I think it was a Burna Boy song or something. And I found a way to use Beethoven's Fifth Symphony
Mm-hmm.
as an intro or a transition to another song entirely.
Mm.
You'll be shocked that even a music director who didn't study classical music or didn't go to any formal school, but listens wide and understands the role he plays as a music director, you know, can actually make that happen. This person might not be able, it's their notes, right? It doesn't matter if you're using the right fingerings or not. If you go on stage with Burna Boy and the band starts da 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 dum da 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 dum da 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 da, and it starts to do all that stuff, and then the drums is going at a particular groove, and all of a sudden there's some sort of modulation or there's some sort of movement from one key to another, and then Burna Boy just comes in, yeah, 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 yeah. Like if he does that in Europe, for example, everybody will go crazy. Nobody cares if the music director or the band used the right fingering on the piano
Yeah,
or
I
used,
would
and I'm not
believe that.
advocating for you to lose your form. That's not what I'm advocating for. I'm saying that you studying classical music does not exempt you from playing in the music industry. So it shouldn't be a this or that, right? It should be a conversation we should be having as music professionals, as execs. Who says that a classical musician cannot have a manager? Who says that a classical musician cannot have a classical album that is distributed by a record label like Maven?
Yeah.
Who says that a classical musician cannot have an A&R? You can, right? Someone like Lang Lang has a manager, Lang Lang has A&R, Lang Lang has an album. Yuja Wang, mention them. They all have these things. The sweetest thing now is that a bulk of the music being performed in the classical space are music that are copyright free, right? So if Lang Lang makes an album using, let's say, Mozart's, whatever that has not been revised by a publishing company to bring back the copyright, claims and all that stuff, nobody's gonna hold him. If Lang Lang decide, I think Lang Lang did something with John Legend and a couple artists, for example. He did not, he didn't need to change his style. He still played classical on the music.
Even
I,
Pavarotti did a lot of collaboration, Michael Jackson
a
and
lot of
different.
collaborations.
Yeah, Pavarotti.
Exactly. So in between the music, there's a slot for you to do what you have learned, what you're trained to do. You're going to get splits. You're going to get a percentage from, and when I say splits, a split is basically a percentage you get from the composition side as an artist. Points are what you get from the mechanical side, but we'll get to that point.
Yeah,
So
thank you
you
so
will
much.
still get, yeah, you still get points and splits for your contribution as a classical musician. So they're not two different conversations. They are meant to be one conversation. But unfortunately, the households for this genre are not engaging with the industry.
Okay. Yes. So I that question was intentional, and we are still going to dig into it better
Mm,
because the reason for that is obvious. We both of us again we are steeped in this ordinance, which we just mentioned, the classical music industry that sees itself as order of orders. I don't know if that makes sense. I use that in ethnographic sense. So the point is we need to, I'm happy the way you dig into it and open us to it. We are coming back to that, but just a bit of context. What we are discussing about classical music and why it's so important for this conversation before we move into the other nitty-gritties of our focus today is that what what you just explained to us was the case actually in the 60s and the 1970s. And I'm going to provide a very basic example. The Akinwuba is so popular today in Nigeria, Ayoban College and co, and all the generation of the Ayoban College, Akinwuba, Echezona. To start with, they started from the radio into scholarship, but in a very specific and rare cases, we've had many of them was albums in those era. I know of two albums by Akinwuba. Akinwuba was a kind of Christmas album, a key Christmas
yeah.
album, and another piano. I think the other one is purely piano and it's experimental, purely piano and is worked in the opera space at the time. I also know
Mm,
of the is it William Wilberforce also wax album. In fact, he had a huge success with his one of his opera, both in Nigeria and the UK. And that's today we still have it on LP today. So this is just to bring your interesting point into the huge ecosystem that is not so much of a new thing, for
Yeah,
to
it's not.
have. Yeah, it's not. But the question that why is so unique in your case is that people don't know about these things, like the way you put it. People think, oh, because we are classical musicians, this is what we are. And again, that's so assumed or imagined prestiged that we okay because I'm a classical musician, this is where I belong, of course. Yeah. So we'll come back to that later. Let's come back into the context. And I'm so happy about this conversation because in the last 7, 8 years, I myself have worked so deeper in the Nigerian music industry and South African music industry, as well as Ghana. So I'm so happy for us having this context because it seems to be one of my own special baby. I'm not just talking about being a scholar. I work as a promoter, tour manager, organize stuff for some of the biggest artists in Europe, in Nigeria, in Europe, we do my own work also. But we'll get to that. So let's start from somewhere. So from this explanation we've had today, what would you say is how will I put it now? The basic principles of music business, since we now know that classical music and other stuff that we are not even mentioning yet is part of this huge ecosystem. I mean, I'm talking about publishing, organizing live shows, organizing Christmas carol, Christmas concert at Monson, ticketing, all those stuff. Now that we know that they are part of this huge ecosystem of music business, then
Yeah.
what would you say are the basic principles of music business in contemporary Nigeria?
Basic principles. Well, this is okay. How do I go about this? In terms of like basic principles about the music industry in Nigeria is pretty simple, right? It's pretty simple. I think that you know you one needs to understand the market, and I'll explain. I'll explain. So when I started my journey into the administrative part of music business or of music, well, my journey in music business, I did a course with Berkeley Online in music business, and on music business, and I learned everything I could learn. I, even got certified and all that stuff. But I quick, I found quickly that a bulk of what was taught by one of the greats in the industry in America wasn't applicable here. It was at the time where handshakes were what we needed to make deals. It was at the time where, in fact, it's still on up until now, where you pay the radio to play your music, even though it's illegal. Whereas it's supposed to be the other way around, right? Um, at the time where before you could put out a record in time past, it's a whole lot. The distribution channel was a lot more stringent. We had the big three, big four who could only like put out your music for you. But we've gotten to the point where you can write a song today, record it today, and put it out to the world today, right? So a lot of these things that I learned wasn't applicable. In fact, I to start the record label at the time and it failed. And obviously, it was meant to fail because it wasn't applicable. So the first thing you need to do is understand your demography, understand where you play, understand your market, understand. When they say when you're in Rome, you behave like a Roman, right? Understand what it means to be a Roman or to be a Nigerian in this context. That's one thing. Second thing is that you can't be purist. You can't be, oh, I have this, I've done this. You have to be at everybody's level. You have to be able to communicate and talk to and relate with everybody at whatever level. Because what drives this industry is information.
Yeah.
What drives this industry is information. And I know many other industries, right? But the fact that ours doesn't necessarily have some sort of solid structure yet, it's not something you can easily just go online and say da, 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 give me this, and then it gives you, or I it's not very structured, right? So pointers there are a lot of companies in Nigeria now in the music space that would, love to invest in an artist or invest in whatever. But if you search for them online, you probably won't find them.
Mm.
But having to interact with somebody will just tell you. And I'm saying this because this happened recently. Somebody just reached out to me yesterday and say, "Oh, there's this company, blah, 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 blah. They're interested in your artist. Send me this, send me this, send me that. Let me have a conversation with them." And I checked up on this company. I think they just even opened their social media channel recently, right? And these guys have done big things. And then I began to probe more, ask more, and I figured out that, oh, they've worked with this, or they are currently working with this person, they're currently working with this person. Do you understand what I mean? So you need to understand where you are. You need to bring yourself down to everybody's level. As soon as you know that this person plays in the industry, and I'm not saying your relationship should be transactional, right? But I'm saying that you have to be strategic about things. As immediately you know that this person has one or two things they do in the industry, get to don't be even if you manage the video or you signed the video, you've done something with the video or Wizkid or Burna Boy, be willing to have a conversation, be willing to play at their level. All right. And a couple more things. Understand contracts. You don't have to be a lawyer to understand contracts. I did a course in music law, right? A bulk of the legal things that I've had to undo. It's not like we have a lawyer. My artist has a lawyer. We have a lawyer that is on retainer. But a bulk of the deals that I've had to undo, we ran it by the lawyer for the sake of, oh, our lawyers have. In fact, sometimes our lawyer will just look at it and say, "DG, you're right," and send it back. It's just for them to do their job. I took a course in music law, and I've seen enough contracts to let me understand what I'm looking out for, and what I shouldn't even entertain. Right. So understand contracts is very, very important. Understand the jargons, like the terms that are being used in the music business that are even outside contracts. What does distribution mean? What channel of royalties? What are the available channel for royalties for your work as a creative? And I'm using the word creative, I didn't use music because whatever is applicable is applicable for any creative work in terms of like the copyright law. Like there are major two channels, right, for royalties. Understand those things. So royalties, contract, bringing yourself to the level of people to anybody's level where you can have conversations, understand the demographic, the people you are dealing with. These are Nigerians. You pay for your music to be played on radio instead of the other way around. You will pay for it, right? If you don't want to pay for it, you need to build leverage to the point that they will be the one looking for you. How do you build leverage? That's a different conversation entirely, right? So there are a lot more, but these are like the things that I have held dear all this while since like all the failures and wins that I've had. I think that I've held dear and have been helping me as an individual. For example, one of the ways I try to keep relationship is I try to belong to certain circle in a
Yeah.
sense. So how do I mean? So I'll use football as an example. I figured out that a bunch of the people that I look up to and a bunch of the people that I would like to have conversations with and that I know that certain opportunities will come from there, gather on a particular day and play football together, right? And you have to be a member to do that and all that stuff. So what did I do? I did my best, showcased myself to the point that I could become a member. I subscribe to it. I pay every month, to be a member of that team just to play football. But while we're playing football,
Yeah.
right, informations are coming out, conversations are coming out. We are getting to know one another. These are the sacrifices you make. I've been amazed. I've been in the process of closing a deal before, and it was taking a long time. All I needed to do was, become a little bit more familiar with one of the key players there. And it wasn't even because of the contract, right? Because it was a year after. And we met at an event where his wife was doing like a pop-up. She was selling stuff. And I went to the store and I bought a couple of things for my daughter. That changed the whole game entirely. The contract was sealed. The deal that we've been on for 1 year was closed within 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I mean? Just
Yeah.
because there was an extension to beyond talking business and all that stuff, I took an extra step to become familiar even to the family. So now when we talk, it's not just about business. We're talking about family. We're talking about, oh, how's your wife? Oh, how's the business? Oh, how's this? Do you get what I mean? And that is giving more access. That is giving you access to more information. That is giving you more access to things that you will need, to build whatever it is that you're building. So yeah, that's how I think about it. That's those are the principles or the yeah, if I would use that word that I think that one should have um you know to thrive or to build something, to have something done in the industry.
Wow, thank you so much for that. Thank you so much. I think one important point that I also like to stretch a bit quickly before we move to the
Mhm.
next one is the fact that you mentioned what I would call the main line, that is in quotes, those that they've been around for many years, but some of them don't even have social media page, or if they have
Yeah,
social media page, they are just there for it's not functioning in the sense of social media. And I'm giving you
yeah,
an
yeah,
there are, of course, I'm sure you know about this. What we now call, like you explain beautifully now. The music industry in Nigeria is not one. It's music industries, because it's an industry with many industries. We have
mm,
the contemporary music industry, like the new Nollywood. When we
yeah,
also have the recent industry, then we also have the old music industry. And I'll give you quickly a very, very smart example, quick one. The old industry represent the likes of, the early years, those I will use the musician for instance now, the early years of the likes of Sonny Ade, the 60s, the Niger record, TYC, all those big stuff that happened, the Badejo stuff, Badejo Studio, the Olatunji brothers, I'm sure you know about them very well, that
yeah,
became
yeah,
Babalaje or Yalaje or Maji record. The history goes that way. And these are the generation that brought about the likes of today. And of course, Tabansi in the East, talking about Tabansi and all the
yeah,
likes, all the big brothers in the East also. So, and these are the generation that produce what we call the evergreen years right now. The likes of
yeah.
Victor, yeah, the likes of Barista,
Orlando or Barista,
Orlando,
Duke Olatunji.
K1, Olatunji, of course, even up to, Abibu Oluwa,
Mm-hmm.
or the Omajis.
Salawa Benny.
Talawa Benny, of course, Alagbada Records, all those things. The Baristas, TYC and Sonia Day were on TYC. You know all this. So these are the foundational. Then in the mid 80s, the recent one came in. We have the likes of Sarolaj. It used to be Erowa. So they started discovering the likes of Pasuma. Then we
Yeah,
also have the new version of the Premier record, the Sony's,
Miracle.
and
Yeah,
they also discovered generation of musicians, including and in fact, towards the end of the 80s, Barista, Fuji Garbage, Blue, and
yeah,
what we call Afro Funk, Shino Peters came on board, all the big names
yes.
of the 90s, Bobo,
Shino
Sony,
Peters, Bright Chimezie.
God bless you, Bright Chimeze, all that. Then that ran into the late 90s. And by the early, of course, we have the transitioners, the Kenny's music and all their, the intermediate in that area. Before we now have the new one, the likes of, what's his name? The Mo Eats,
Yeah,
uh,
we had the Mo Eights. Now,
the,
now
the
Living Records. Yeah,
yeah. So you can see with this very, very, very basic, simplistic, mapping now, we have many industries. So the last two that I mentioned, many of them, do you know they are still in existence and they still sign artists? Babalaji is still around. Sarolaji is still around. Tabansi, I think I saw a recent post from the child try to renegotiate their contract with their. So some of them are still around, but they are not so visible on Facebook and. But the question is, from your own experience as a professional in this area, what do you think about this transition? These guys are not visible. The older ones, but they
hmm,
are still doing business. But the new ones are visible, they're also doing business. What does this what do you think? How can we make sense of this interesting layer but also detached? Because when we talk about Nigerian music today, industry, you talk about whiskey, Davido, you talk about
yeah,
all the very but uh, at this definition, the people I spoke about, the two layers, can we still consider them part of this ecosystem, despite their traditional or what I can call the analog
the
model
analog approach. Yeah, yeah,
approach? Yeah.
yeah. So the answer is A very resounding yes. They are still part of the industry, right? Growing up here, there was a concept that I don't even know where I don't know maybe I made it up in my head or whatever. I figured out that the biggest of deals or the biggest of events that are shaping and shifting the culture happens behind closed doors,
Yeah,
right? For example, the recent signing to Sony Music Publishing of Bright Chimezie was championed by Premier Records.
yeah,
Exactly. It was championed by Premier Records. And then, of course, his son, Chooks Chimezie, and I've forgotten the name of this lady. She runs One Management. Anyways, so yes, I believe strongly that they are still part of this industry because whether we like it or not, whatever deal or whatever the music is doing, is on record in terms of the revenue that the music industry is generating or moving around, within a period of time. So, but I think that the reason a lot of them will rather go ghost mode or stealth is because they have a method that works
mm,
and they will rather stick with it.
mm,
And there's also generational bias, right? There's this bias out there now, or I don't know if I should call it a bias. I can't find the right name for it, but about like the Gen Zs, how they like to do things in comparison to how the millennials or how the Gen Xs would like to, do their things. And I find that a lot of older generation are finding it difficult to work with the younger ones. So they rather not, have them around. That being said, as much as that technique or that approach, the digital approach works, and I will not stay here or sit here and tell you it doesn't work. It works like magic
yeah,
because we're in a world of perception now, right? We're in a world of perception. We're in a world of um short attention span.
yeah,
We don't stick for long. For example, the Fuji Garbage, the Saheed Osupa, the Pasuma that you mentioned, the Barista, a track can go for 10 minutes. One
yeah,
track can go for 15, 20 minutes. In this world today, it doesn't work. And I say that carefully. Now, what I've done in my head is this. I have split the industry in terms of this part of the industry, I've split it into two. There is the analog side, which we've named here, and then there's the digital side.
yeah,
A good place to play is for an organization or an institute to play both sides, right? So that you don't leave any stone unturned. But again, I will understand why you would tilt towards the analog variation instead of the digital. And one of the ways the analog variation works for the old guys is because they have a way of doing things, like I said earlier. A song that takes 10 minutes, 15 minutes, you know that I'm not the reason those guys make records those days is not for global reach, and it wasn't for streaming. It
yeah,
was for journey. You're moving from Lagos to Ibadan, right? They want to be able to keep you entertained for that amount of time, right? These days, if you play a whole album of an artist that is about even 20 tracks, before you drive from Lekki Phase 1 to the mainland, the whole album is done. Maybe you've played it twice. But these guys will give you substance, they will give you material that will
mm,
last you as long as possible. Now, what that has done is that it has solidified or made it clear that these people are show material.
mm,
Up until today, K1, Sunny Ade. In fact, people change their wedding date so they can have Sunny Ade perform. Sunny Ade can change your wedding date for you.
yeah,
They've built such legacy that they can influence your life drastically.
mm,
That is what the digital age will not give to you, or has not given to us yet, if I'll put it that way. All right. So they are show materials. They don't necessarily have to have numbers. They don't necessarily have to have followers on Instagram or whatever. They are going for events every weekend. In fact,
yeah,
every day.
yeah,
Do you understand what I mean? And the
yeah,
way they were able to get that done. Why do I need social media if I am, bro? The amount Sonia Ade collects from for his performance is relatively almost the same Burna Boy will collect in Nigeria for his performance.
mm,
Mind I said in Nigeria, do you get? Because
definitely,
Sonia Ade will move all his equipment. He has his own equipment, he has his own generator, he has everything, and his band,
Everything.
there are almost like 50 people on stage. And these are men that this is what they do full time. They have kids in school, in universities, private universities. That tells you the amount he pays them.
Hmm.
So Sonny Ade is not the kind of artist you would book for 10 million naira. And he's doing shows back to back every Saturday, for example.
Yeah.
It doesn't need your social media, whatever. It doesn't need perception, right? So a bulk of what we have today in terms of people that are utilizing social media generally is, or the digital age generally is for perception purpose, right? Perception make people feel that you are sometimes what you are or what you are not,
Hmm.
because that can in turn influence how you are being engaged. Do you understand what I mean? If you're
Yeah.
wearing the designers, for example, if somebody wants to book you for an event, of course they know that they have to come correct.
Hmm.
If you are snapping your photos in shiny places as you go for events, even if the event you are going for is once in 2 months, that one event, you take photos in different areas that can last you for the next 2 months. And it begins to
Yeah.
look as though you're going for events every week.
Hmm.
People think you are hot, people think you are the next big thing.
Hmm.
But the old guys don't need it because they built with the grind, they built a followership that makes you look at them for what they really are. Before you pick up your phone and dial on your this phone number or his manager's number, you would think twice.
Yeah.
Lagbaja can afford. Lagbaja was away from the industry for years. Lagbaja did not feature one recent Afrobeat artist until recently, the one he did with Fireboy. And I know this for a fact because I reached out to him, to his team, to work on one of my artist projects. And he clearly said that I am not working with any of the youngies for now. When I come back to the industry, I'll let you guys know.
Hmm.
He could afford to do that because he's good. If he comes out today again, everybody will still rush him and accept him
Yeah.
because they built something. And the pressure of having to release music every time, every time, every time to remain relevant is not there because they have enough material to last you for a journey.
Hmm.
Does that make sense? So the reason those analog guys would prefer to stick to the analog thing is because it is working, it is very viable, right? And that's what it is. Even internationally, this is it. I call this the third wave. This Afrobeat to the world is the third wave. It's not like Sony was never in Nigeria. They've been in Nigeria before. They left. They
Definitely.
came. This is the third time they're back. Warner, the same thing. Sonny Ade was signed to Sony years ago.
Yeah.
So what are you saying? So whatever anybody's experiencing now, oh, this person is da 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 da, it's recency bias. It has happened before. Like somebody was saying that Burna Boy was the first artist to perform at the O2 Arena. Are you joking? Was the first Nigerian artist to perform at the O2 Arena. Are you joking? Or Burna Boy was the first Nigerian artist to collect Grammy. Are you joking? That's not true.
At least I
Far
remember
from
1989, the Mandela's 70th birthday in Wembley. In fact, was there O2 then? No. It's even something bigger. So I remember many Nigerians, including our local guys at the time,
yes,
performed to
yes.
audience of millions, millions,
Yeah,
millions.
so
Yeah.
it's not true. So
1970s and
those guys
79.
don't need perception, right? But recently now, because we are trying to appeal to certain demography, we're trying to maximize digital things, so it doesn't look like we're behind. It's easier for perception. For example, again, like I said, before Sonia Ade would wear a $1 million shoe, it's because he earned the $1 million.
Hmm.
Do you understand what I mean? He earned it. He has the money in his account. He bought it. Nobody faked it in his leg or borrowed him to wear it and say, you get tag me when you post. But now we have that. So we need social media to show the world that I'm wearing, this, or I'm driving this car, I'm doing that. If Sonia Ade would drive a Range Rover at the time, it wasn't because he was paying small, small, or the car lots, the car company wanted to use him to get traction. No, it wasn't that. He
Hmm.
could afford, if it was an endorsement deal, you knew from the get-go that it was endorsement. Do you understand
Hmm.
what I mean? So yeah, they
Definitely.
don't need it. But what me I would say is this. For example, recently K1 is trying to do something with the recent generation. Right? K1 is trying to do something with the recent generation. Who else again? I think Said Oshukpa also are trying to do things with the recent
Actually,
generation.
they've been doing it actually.
Yeah, yeah, so
This,
I mean in a
yeah,
different, not even
Olamide,
fair.
yes.
Yeah,
Pasuma, Stephen
not
Harvey,
even
the rest.
featuring on music now. Not even features on music now. I think K1 is starting an academy. I think K1 is trying to start an academy that would then lead to a record label. So he can sign, he wants to start signing artists, right? So for that purpose, and of course, he's looking at the younger artists and he's not necessarily looking at Fuji. Fuji is part of what he's
Definitely.
looking, but he's also looking at Afrobeats. So for that reason, he's needing to do some things on social media. He's needing to have some presence because those are the demography he's trying to cater to,
He
right?
actually
So for,
has a strong presence, actually. He has a
it does,
fantastic,
it
one of
does,
the
it
strongest
does,
management team, at least in the
it
last 30
does.
years. K1, yeah.
These guys employ brand engineers. Now, a brand strategist or brand person, well, is a different thing from a brand engineer. A brand
Right.
engineer is a different thing entirely. I know someone who works on K1's team. He's a brand engineer, knowing what it means to engineer somebody's brand. So yes, these guys have strong people working with them.
Definitely.
So because they're trying to do stuff recently, they're trying to work with the recent demography, and it's not because they're looking for more money. It can be part of it, but maybe just their way to give back. It's not because they're hungry or they're not making their money. They're still making their shitload of money. Permit me to use that word. So yeah, they have to, like, communicate via the medium that this demography that you're looking for or looking at can easily, consume whatever it is
Yeah,
that
I
they have
think
to.
thank you so much. Yeah, let's move now. Let's talk about record deals and
Okay.
contracts. Let's say, for instance, we have somebody who perhaps he has been working the management and needs to change. So what are the
Mhm.
process now? Getting a record deals and contract. What are the basics at least? Like I think you mentioned this earlier, but can you just bring us into it again? What will be the effective way? Because there are many ways, of course, to
Yeah.
engage the record deals here.
Yeah. Mm, there are many ways that ties to one, and that one thing is leverage, right?
Leverage.
Leverage, yes. And before you can have leverage as an artist trying to get a record deal, it means you have songs, you have a catalog. Um, you have a catalog. So there are two reasons a record label or any music, institution or company would sign you or want to work with you. First thing is prospect. Second thing is track record. So prospect is there are people called A&R, artist and repertoire,
Yeah.
right? That have that have trained themselves or have the gift to spot someone who has potentials.
Yeah.
Someone who you probably don't have any record out there yet, but they've seen your work, they've heard you perform, they've heard you, in the studio trying to develop your work and stuff, and they feel like, and then physically you fit, whatever narrative that they're trying to drive, or whatever I think, whatever is bubbling socially, right now. So there are certain people that can actually spot you and say, I believe this person, if we do this, and this person is doing what they are doing, I believe this person can do this for us. This
Yeah.
person can blow, this person can. So they can sign you based on prospect, right? The second way, which is the surest way, is leverage. Leverage is you have, at least if not mastered, you're near mastering your art. You have catalogs or catalog, some songs or whatever it is, and those songs are doing well. Or you have I call it the new CV now. Your new CV is not necessarily what you put in paper and submit. It's actually your social media presence,
Yeah.
right? It's convertible to currency. Like the amount of followers, engagements that you have across platform can be converted into currency in different ways. So if you have these things, right, those are leverage that you can have. And then if you already have a solid team behind you that have put down measures or strategies to, your goals in 5 years, goals in 10 years,
Mm,
goals in 15 years, they already mapped out those paths. Just like a company, we have financial model, projections,
definitely.
and iterations or updates. You're updating your app, or all those things. If you
Yeah.
have those things, those are leverages that you can use. And of course, yeah, then it's either they find you, I mean the record companies, or your management, or even somehow you approach them, either through your management or even you yourself. You reach out to them and say, yo, I think that I'll be a good fit on your roster. This is what I've done, this is what I've done, this is what I've done. Now, what leverage does for you is it then helps you to be able to have conversations from a very nuanced point of view. So if they're offering you a particular amount of money for a particular term, because you have leverage, you can push back and say, no, I want this for this term. I want this for this. Right. When we go fully into contracts, I will point out some important things
Okay.
in
Yeah.
contract. Yeah.
Okay.
So I want this for this. But if you are a prospect artist, you don't necessarily have enough leverage to say this is what I want over this one because you're not a business that is making money already. Do you get? Just like investors come into business, right? You're not making money. Well, we just believe that this product will make money. So you can't really ask for much. And a bulk of your formation, becoming who you really want to be, will be dependent on whoever is financing it, whoever that's the record label or the distribution company or the publishing, whatever it is, and all that. So you don't really have much to fight for in a sense. But if you have leverage, yeah. So those are like the two ways to get signed. But one thing is common for both. You have to be extremely talented
Okay.
and you have to talent and character. So I'll put some things under character. Character as per the way you relate with people, how you handle fame, how you handle wins, how you handle losses, failure, and all that stuff. And how you put your work on your head. How serious are you with your work? Because you can be extremely talented and useless when it comes to working. Do you get? So yeah, those are the things that those are the things that they look at. So
Hmm.
those two things should be ingrained in both someone with leverage and someone who is prospect. Those two things are very, very important that you have.
Wow. Okay, so I think the contrast of a team is something you've mentioned earlier. Um, but I think you can just quickly brush over it. What are the basic, let's say three important areas in a contract that needs to be understood, by anyone
Okay.
trying. Yeah.
Okay. So unfortunately, a lot of people focus more on advances, like how much are they giving me first? And I think it's the least thing you should worry about. Right? The first thing you should worry about is ownership.
Hmm.
Owns what? Who owns what? So the first thing you should worry about is ownership. The second thing you should worry about is term.
Hmm.
Yeah, ownership term before you can even start thinking about, advance, what money comes, how much am I getting, da 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 da. Da. So ownership I can split ownership in two ways, right? First way is identity. Who owns the identity,
Hmm.
right? So if your name is Superstar, for example, who owns Superstar?
Hmm.
There are cases where you leave the record label or leave the contract, maybe your time is done or something happens, and you can't use that identity anymore. Do you
Hmm.
get? Superstar is your superstar, and superstar is supposed to wear a cap that has a star,
Hmm.
and every time you appear, and you're supposed to wear maybe sleeveless shirt and stuff, and that is the brand that has been built and trademarked. By the time you are leaving that contract, if you don't own that identity, you cannot use it anymore. If you try
Hmm.
to use it, you get sued. That's one part of ownership. The second part of ownership is then the product itself, like the music. So if you're a musician, we're talking about music here. So for a musician, um, all the record that you made during your time in that, record label or while you're still within the time of the deal, who owns it? Is it owned strictly, fully by the financiers or fully by the artist, or is co-ownership? Do we co-own it? How many percentage of it do you own? How many percent do they own? Is there a reversal term, for example? So, okay, fine. Because you're financing this and you're like going in heavy on this, you can own the catalog that I create with you 10 years after expiration of my contract. And after 10 years, everything reverts back to me. That is a way to go about it, right? It's always difficult to bargain, to negotiate ownership, especially if they are, investing heavily in you. It's always very, very difficult. But you can negotiate reversal. So after a period of time, this thing has to come back to me, you know.
Hmm.
So those are like the two things for ownership. For term, how long are you there for? So in past year, they can tell you the contracts will come in terms of years, like 3 years, 4 years. But now they use albums.
Hmm.
Or now terms can mean albums. So if they tell you for 3 terms. You need clarification. Those 3 terms, are you saying 3 terms as per 3 years or 3 albums?
Hmm.
All right? They can tell you straight up 3 albums. Now, what does that mean? 3 albums can be 15 years. Do you
Hmm.
understand? 3 albums can be 15 years. Now, you release your first album, first year, maybe you that made a run for about 2 years or sometimes even a year. You release your second album and you think, one album to go, one album to go, right? Especially if the relationship isn't great, right? And you can't wait
Hmm.
to you're waiting one album to go. And they can leave your album, your third album on the shelf for as long as they want to keep you there. For
Wow.
so many reasons. Probably because they've not recouped their money, probably because somebody's just wicked in there. Probably it could be for whatever, because if they are making, or probably because you are making them so much money and they don't want you to go.
Hmm.
It could be there are different reasons. So your third album can be kept on the shelf for 10, 20, whatever years. And if you come back and say, oh, I need to be out, blah, 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 they'll tell you it's 3 album terms. Just know what I mean? And if you
Yeah.
say, release my third album now, they can give you 1,000,001 reasons why they don't think it's the time to drop the album.
Hmm.
Especially if it's a label that has a lot of artists on their roster.
Wow.
Right. So that keeps you in a loop. That keeps you there. Your career will just die there. And that's it. Right. So, how do you go about this? One of the ways you can go about this is to say, okay, 3 album term, but from the window between my first album and second album should not be more than this XYZ time. If that time lapses and you don't release the following album, I can get out of this deal. I can get out of this
Hmm.
contract. So year one, I dropped the album. Maybe year two or year three, I want to drop another album. Now they can keep you for as long as they want, but if you have like a clause in place that states that you cannot keep me more than 12 months or 24 months from my previous album to dropping the next album, that clause will kick in. If they keep you
Hmm.
more than that, you have the right to exit the contract.
Okay.
So these are clauses and rules
Hmm.
that people don't know, people are not aware of. Now, like I said, I am not a lawyer, but I have dealt with enough contracts to know what to look for,
Hmm.
right? And of course, like I said, I did music law. So yeah, those are the things. And then the last thing we talk about is the value they put on your project, right? So if they say they want to for your time, they're putting $100,000 on your career, for example, what does that $100,000 cover? Is the $100,000 inclusive of recording, payments, paying my team, marketing, PR, everything? Is it inclusive? Is it all inclusive? Or the $100,000 is just an advance for me and you will still take care of all these things? Now, remember, if that's the case, it means that the money is going to be more than $100,000. It's just that $100,000 is allocated to you as your money that you have to pay back. If the other things are another $100,000, that's $200,000 that you are owing that you have to pay back,
Hmm.
right? You recoup that from your catalog before you begin to split money, right? So, what is this money really for? What does it cover? Now, what does it cover? One, they have to state it. Two, how is the accounting process? Because they'll just throw you invoices and say, oh, we bought tissue, oh, we bought petrol in your manager's car, oh, we do this, oh, we did this. Did I authorize those things?
Hmm.
And the money just begins to go up and you're in a loop. Right. So you need to know why, they are giving you the amount they are giving you and what it is for,
Hmm.
so that the money can be properly spent and allocated to what it's supposed to go to. So those are like the key things.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I feel like I'm skipping something around the money thing, but I can't remember. Maybe when I remember, I'll
Yeah,
I'll, I'll
we
let
can
you know.
always come. Okay, quickly before we exit this section, I noticed the idea of deals and contracts also covers, the orders of the order that we mentioned earlier, the classical music industry. So, and since particularly this platform, this is more like a scholarly business, everything all together platform. I really want us to also, to a larger extent, to bring the immediate society, particularly our community, the classical music community. Nigeria is so big now into also in classical music. We have composers, we have church performances, we have organists, we have composers who negotiate deal as a choir master. Then
Yeah.
how where's the position in these deals and contracts? Where's the position? And one again, is it possible now? We mentioned this earlier, and now I know we have composers online with us, we have performers. What is the potential? What is the possibility of the 1970s, 60s of the Akin Ubah's record albums era coming back? I mean, us having somebody who has rehearsed the works of, let's say, Ayobankole, the works of Ayolorati, the works of Seun Waje, the works of Daniel Lukoya, and all the composers that I know them, and wants to release an album with a local record label. What's the possibility? Is there any possibilities for that now?
Oh yes. There's something I'm trying to look at that helps me answer your question properly. Because this
Okay.
thing you are saying, there's an email that I received yesterday that ties to what you just asked. So
Okay.
if I remember correctly, your first question is what is my role in all these things?
No, I mean the first question is, yes, in record deals, we spoke about, the popular music, which we know, the music industry. And earlier we have
Hmm.
mentioned that the classical music is also part of this huge industry. So
Yeah.
of course, people think about it, oh, this is different. And because even in classical music studies, sorry for scholars are grant, classical musicians are not taught how to do business. They're only taught how to play, how to compose. I'm sure this is a common knowledge. They don't teach you even how to write your article, how to publish. They don't teach you that in
Yeah.
school. It is you that will go and do your thing and perform and get the gigs here and there. Sorry for our classical musicians. Of course, that's why we're having this. That's what Organ House is for. But now this question is for you and helping you get into this big ecosystem. What is the
Yeah.
position of a classical musician negotiating a deal or a composer getting a deal in Nigeria? That's one. The second one is it possible now for somebody to wake up today and say, I want to record the entire choral works of Daniel Lukoya, or I want to
Mm.
record the entire uh, three, arrangement of, let's say, arrangement of Akin Uba. I want to record the entire African pianism of Akin Uba. I want to record the entire a cappella works of Lase Kweme, or the entire canticles and responses of, Sam Ojukwu. Are there chances for that in Nigerian music industry today? Is this possible?
Oh
Is this
yes, there are.
possible?
Yes, it is very, 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 very possible. In fact, there's something Sony is doing. I think they are still on it. Recently they signed Rosaido Shukma, they signed that Green, they
Yeah,
signed
yeah. They signed
I
this
think they signed
Ezeni in Ibadan
K1, they
also.
signed a lot of this legend,
Tope
even
Alison.
like recently Bright
This for me, Alison or
Chimes.
Tope Alison. Yeah,
Yes. Now the reason for this is what one of the initiatives that they're driving called they do there is to actually take the works of these people and sample it into this modern music, or into this Afrobeat music in a sense. So imagine you hear a Awade song and then his music of K1's music and put it there. That's called sampling, right? And then you put it there, pa. And maybe the video sings on top of it. Or maybe where they even interpolate it.
yeah,
Interpolation basically is, singing it, carrying it and doing like the exact same thing. So sampling is taking the exact same thing and putting it. You can tweak it, but you got the file from the record itself.
yeah,
Interpolation is taking that thing and doing it your own way,
yeah.
basically.
Mm,
Right. Now, there's room for that. So you can interpolate, you can sample, right? Now, what are and I think that a lot of the part of the music space or the music business or industry that people are not looking at is the publishing side of things. or the
Mm.
sync side, publishing side of things that addresses the sync side of things. And synchronization basically is putting sound to visuals,
Mm.
right? So putting music to visuals, right? I reckon that there are a lot of Nigerian movies now, or even international movies, that needs an Akinyuba's composition.
Mm.
There is a scene in that movie there's a scene in that movie that that composition will sit well.
Mm.
You get? And what can you as a classical musician do? If it's a piano piece, for example, you can apply to get the license to re-record Akinyuba's work from his estate or his
Mm.
publishers. So you re-record it so it sounds a lot more modern, or the work is being remastered so that it sounds a lot more modern and is pitched to music there's a name they call them. My God, it has eluded me. Music supervisors. So music supervisors basically get sounds for motion picture, either film, games, whatever it
Yeah.
is. Then you give it to them, and they help you place those things, in the work. So that's one. I've made that's two. The first one is sampling in today's recent whatever, which Sony is already doing. The second one is getting the license or the permission to re-record the work so it sounds a lot more modern for you to be able to then, pitch it to for synchronization opportunities, right? Which is like movies, games, adverts, whatever it is, anything that has to do with pictures, like visuals. Right. So those are opportunities that classical musicians can actually, enjoy and, play in to be able to be a part and play in this music industry. With that, you're getting publishing royalties, you're getting masters, royalties on the master side. Because if you're recording, for example, depending on how strong your management is or how strong you understand what you're doing, because you're performing it, you deserve some level of splits or percentage from the master side, right? So it's a recording, right? Which again, so you get that, and then for publishing, which is like the literal part of it, like the writing part of it, right? You might not get anything in terms of publishing because you didn't write the music, but you will get from the master side of things. Do you get what I mean? So, but you need a publisher to then place those things and get to sync opportunities
Sorry to
out for you.
quickly interrupt you. Sorry, I think we need now. There's something that what you said is very important, and I really I want us to get into it deeply for our colleagues and friends to really understand what we're talking about. So,
Mm.
what you are saying is actually also it is not a new phenomenon. And I will take you back in time quickly. Just let's travel back to 25, 30 years ago. The Nollywood, I mean the old Nollywood. I'll come back to the
Yeah,
new Nollywood shortly. There was a
yeah,
time, I think I'm I think I was so young or whatever. I know of a time where when we would see Igbo movies, particularly Igbo productions, we
yeah,
see Akot White as they use it for scene changes and underground music to tell stories. Akot White Kora, particularly Akot
yeah,
White.
yeah,
And later also, Professor Lasse Koime started doing the same for his own work, particularly for some of the movies he featured
yeah,
in Nollywood now.
yeah,
Lasse Koime did the same. Now, let's travel back to new Nollywood now. Kunle Afolayan. No, let's wait. Let's go back to the Yoruba side. Shola Alison became popular because of that da 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 dee, da 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 da.
yeah,
If every AG, that AG
yeah.
Owuro was actually a home video by
Yes.
Femi Ogidon, or is it Ogidon Femi something Ogidon?
Adeogido.
Tade, is it Tade Ogidon? Yeah,
When you started.
yeah, who actually yeah. So that was actually, is it, Tade Ogidon? Sorry, that's not, it's not Tade Ogidon. I know the person, but I can't remember his name right now. So
Hmm.
it was actually A.G. Owuro, so a old movie that
Yeah.
Shola Alison was contracted to record for that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
soundtrack, and eventually Dudu Heritage took up that soundtrack publishing contract and reworked it into an album. In
Yeah.
fact, they shot new video for that soundtrack because it's not an album, and that's what actually introduced Shola Alison to the limelight in Nigeria today.
Hmm.
So so I'm just trying to curate one of the things you have said that they are actually there is because we so-called classical musician again, sorry. I'm also a classical I'm also a classical musician. I wear many caps as a juju, Fuji, jazz, whatever. That's another conversation. But the point is, even recently, the Kunle Afolanyos, go and check their new movies, recent movies. I think I know of the recent one, right from Irapada. Most of his scores are written by classical musicians.
Yes.
I think I know of Irapada. Irapada was recorded, is it in Colombia or somewhere, one European country? Yeah, because I have a friend of mine who work with him, who in the recording, whatever, 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 big stuff, So, but the question is, I think I agree with you. Classical musician has a huge stake in Nigerian
You
motion
do.
picture, whatever.
You
But
do.
the question is, tell us, how do we get into it? Let's say if for instance, for composers, for pianists, for organists, for this and that choral director, how do they get into this market now? How can they negotiate their own share of this market?
So again, the music industry is very heavy on leverage. And again, a lot of industries outside the music industry are very heavy on leverage, right? The challenge that I find with us in the creative space is that we don't understand the concept of building,
Hmm.
right? We don't understand the concept of building leverage before we try to get into something, right? Especially when we are studied, especially when we've gone to school, you just believe that. Just like today, yeah, you graduate from school and have your first degree does not guarantee you a good job. Yes, there's extra that needs to be done. In fact, today I think the very starting point for a fair wage or job is masters, right? And that's why everybody's trying to get their masters now and then MBA, all that stuff, right? So it's you need to build leverage. You need to let people see that you carry value, you have value that they would need. And what that will mean is again, build. Secondly, reach out to people, pitch yourself to people. On the side, I am a music director and I do music direction for Bolanle Austin Peters. So I compose, arrange, and direct music for our music house. And of recent, the movie House of Gar, I was a music director for House of Gar, the movie on Netflix. How did I get there? It was all about leverage. It was all about, yes, I was recommended by someone. I went for the interview and I had works that I could show that I had done, both the one
Hmm.
that paid me, both the one that I was experimenting,
Hmm.
both the one that was a collaboration and whatever. And then I got in because I had something to show. And while I was there, I wasn't there, oh, because I studied music, oh, because I've done this, then I'm the alpha and omega of this space. No, you have to understand what your for lack of a better word now employer wants. I would if I do there are a lot of decisions that Ms. Bola Austin Peters, my boss, has kind of asked me, oh, that I don't agree with. Oh, I think this is the kind of music that should go here, that I don't agree with from a music point of view, from a composition point of view. I don't say, oh, because I studied music or because this, then, it has to be my way. Sometimes you let it go and just give her what she wants. Sometimes you try and explain and make her see why. You just have to find compromise, right? And from there, it became a situation that it was just I think it was just for a production. It became a situation of every production they called me till it became almost like an official thing. And then the movie came up and they needed someone, and then it was still me, right? You have to be able to build leverage. Pick up a movie by a notable producer or director that you like to work with. If you don't agree with some of the scores on there or some of the music that was done in it or whatever, if you think they're so bad or they're not good enough, do your own and pitch it to them. Rewrite, recompose, rearrange some of the works that they've done and take it to them and say, oh, I know you've done this movie, I know you did it, but I did an iteration or I did, a remix of stuff of it. And I think this one sounds better. What do you
Hmm.
think?
Hmm.
Teach yourself. If they don't even take it, all right, if they don't answer you, that goes into your archive as something you've done. By the
Yeah.
time you find someone who's ready to work with you and they ask you, what have you done? You can show it to them. Oh, I did this. Yes, it wasn't official, but I did this.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I think
Right.
again, I was sorry to interrupt you, of course. This is how we're going to build it today. It's a conversational time today.
Yeah, it's all
See,
right.
one of our big brothers, Seun Owaje, who is is a reputable composer in
Yeah,
Nigeria. You know, Seun Owaje worked a lot with Tunde mainframe, Tunde Kilani's mainframe, and other
yeah,
also. Yeah. And I think there was a time of course, 2022, we had a conversation, a symposium on film music. And it was that era that, of course, it was part of the presentation, and Tunde Kelani was there. All the big shots were there on that panel, at Moson. And of course, before then, Ajay will tell me, okay, I did it with Kelani. It's like I have a privileged side to some of the working condition. At the time, he was telling me that some of this course is saying that sometimes you need to twist it. So I think the point is there's difference between the thinking for composing as a classical musician for the normal classical scene and the
yeah,
thinking for composing for Nigerian screen, particularly the
yeah,
Nollywood.
yeah,
That's what I just want to draw attention to that. Perhaps our universities, our scholars, our composers needs to think in the line of what fits the stories that the Nollywood
yeah,
or the Timbra, the Sonic. Maybe this is for professors, universities, help us with curriculum that speaks to this kind of thing. But the point is, it seems to me, from my little experience in that area with the likes of OAJ, Ayobankole, Junior, and many other composers of our generation who work in the film industry or theater musicals. What I've seen, including your own experience, is that it is not the same thing. It is not pick it up from the lab of university compositional workshop training and take it to the Nollywood. I don't know if I'm right. So I think there's
no,
a need for, self-consciousness, responsibility to align. In grant making, we talk about alignment. In research, we talk about alignment. I think the same for, this issue because I'm quite particular about it that we have bunch of composers trained from Nigerian universities, but their ovation is within the church, and it's just about clap. After the performance, it's clap. They
yeah,
don't even get paid. That's another
yeah.
conversation. Yeah. So let's move forward, please. Thank you so much. Let's move
So
forward.
I'd like to comment on that quickly before we move
Okay.
forward. So
Okay,
I think
please.
that,
Okay.
yeah, I think that this thing you're talking about it cuts across all industries. Yeah. Yeah, but it's just particular because we're talking about like the music industry. At this moment. Um, I think that the fundamental purpose of education is developing your ability to think.
Hmm. Yeah,
It's not necessarily 2 plus 2 equals to 4. Do you understand what I mean? The
definitely.
ability to understand that we can arrive at 4 in different ways. Combination of different numbers, combination of
Hmm.
different signs, and give us 4. That's what education is for,
Yeah.
right? So because you learned that in harmony, first year harmony, you can't have consecutive thirds or you can't have consecutive this, does not mean that when you're writing for a film or you're writing for a work, you're doing whatever, then you must not use it. If it makes
Hmm.
it sound better, use it. They won't even know. Nobody's going to beat you. It's not a taboo.
Hmm.
Academically, no. But when it comes to the scene, you see that consecutive third gong 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 ló máa ń dùn. That's probably what you need. Yeah, that's probably what you need to convey the emotion that
Yeah.
that particular thing is saying. So yeah, I just wanted to drop that. Yeah.
Okay, so let's move to the next one quickly as we need to open for our friends and colleagues online to ask you or follow-up questions. So I think let's talk
Okay.
about big distribution.
Mhm.
Again, I mentioned earlier about my own experiences and what I do also right now in some corner is about the distribution model within the Nigerian music ecosystem. I've worked with record labels, even producing artists that the circulation of that work follows a different, like I said, the mainline structure, the Babalaje, the Sarolage, the even until today, the Epsilon, the Motmoxin of those days, they have a particular ways of doing it, which is also the same way LP production follows in the US or in Europe. But the Nigerian system is quite unique in its own because it it has its own thinking. You know, you need to understand the way it thinks. So perhaps like what we mentioned earlier, these layers of Nigerian music industry, their distribution follows an interesting way, which is not a context for conversation today. But what I'm driving at is simply that there is a model that is somewhere. There's also what we call digital distribution and streaming. So let's leave the old model because we can't talk about the streaming without talking about those ones. But for the
Yeah.
obvious reasons of what we're going to discuss now. So digital distribution and streaming, how does this work? Because there are cases here and there and evidence that, of course, artists can have big names on screen, on social media, and they're not making money. In fact, just a few days ago, the MTV Nigerian whatever MTV award, the Nigerian hip hop or Afrobeat award they do every year. The producer was just lamenting on a program that look, forget about all the hype and all the hype, like what you said earlier. Somebody can borrow a shoe just to shoot a picture or whatever. That's how the industry is, you know. So it is imaginary. But the question is, digital distribution and streaming is meant people think, okay, because of it, you are making money. So what is this money? Where is the money? Is it what it claims to be or what people think it is? I mean, digital distribution and streaming. What is the logic? What is the basics of this? What do people need to know about it to make money? Or what are the processes into it?
Okay. So again, back to numbers, right? I will explain the way the digital platform works quickly.
Okay.
But before I do that, back to the Nigerian way before the digital era, where we could distribute digitally, the model was quite straightforward, right? And it was Alaba, right? So a marketer or a promoter will approach you as an artist that is making an album or already have an album, or they want you to make an album, and they would give you 50 million naira or so upfront. Now they give you that money, you make the album and give it to them. They
Hmm.
go and exploit the album. They can make the 50 million back. They can make way more than that by sales, hard copy sales, and burning on CDs and whatever. They can probably not make it back, depending on the leverage, depending on the leverage the artist has and how much they put into marketing, right? But you as the artist, all you have is that 50 million and that's it. Be going home,
Hmm.
right? You've made your money from that project and then you're gone. But today, you make your music, you put it on digital platform like the Spotify. So there's a DSP, um, there's a distributor, and then there's the streaming platforms. So the distributor is like an aggregator. They collect the music from you. They call them distros, which is short form
Yeah.
for distributor.
Yeah.
Collect the music from you and send it out to and distribute it on all these other platforms like Spotify, Apple Music, Boomplay, Audiomark, and the rest, right? Now, this streaming platforms have models where it could be subscription model, it could be ad model, whatever, like placing adverts and all that stuff. So, for example, let's use Spotify as the case here. Spotify has a um, freemium version. So DistroKid is a distributor. So there's
Yeah.
DistroKid, there's CD Baby. There are a lot more. There's 1RPM, there is Orchard, there are a lot today.
Yeah.
Uh, so now, Spotify has the freemium, they have the pro. Now, with the freemium, they get ads. People pay and run ads on the freemium. And then on the pro, you subscribe, a particular amount of money to have access to the music that is on their platform. Now, based on the regions, the amount that people pay differs. For example, in Nigeria, we pay between 900 to 1,500 naira every month. In some other, like in the UK, I think it's £10. In the US, it's about $10. If you look at it, it's way, way more than what we pay here, right? If we like do the exchange and all that. So what that means is that streamings are aggregated based on where the numbers are coming from, where the streaming is, where the listener is listening from. So for an average Nigerian, for example, if a Nigerian is streaming for your song, 1 million stream equals, I think they pay about 0.0004 cents per stream. And that is as a result of the amount of money we pay to access music. Because the way that thing is done is there's a percentage that is split amongst all listeners. I mean, all the artists that have songs on their platform. So as one person listens, they allocate an amount to that single listening. So it takes about 1 million streams for you to have, I think, $400 or something in Nigeria. Whereas that 1 million stream in the US or in the UK will give you about $4,000,
Mm.
right? And that is because of their power, like the amounts they pay to these streaming platforms to have access to your music, right? So that's how that works. Now, if you're a Nigerian artist and a bunch of your streaming is coming from Nigeria, you don't expect to make the same amount. So even if you have 5 million streams in Nigeria, someone in the US or in the UK or even in Nigeria that has their stream coming from the UK, US, whatever, will make more money with just one million stream than you.
Mm.
So that's how it works, right? Now, your distributor, that's the channel in between you and the Spotify's, have a percentage they get from the money that is being paid by the Spotify and Quoted, because your distributor then goes around and collect all these monies,
Mm.
right? They take their percentage off it. Because back in the day, for you to distribute, you have to pay, even up until there. I think DistroKid,
Yeah.
CD Baby, you still have to pay them before they can distribute your music. But
Mm.
there are some distribution companies right now that they don't take upfront money from you. They distribute your music with the idea that they will get a particular percentage from whatever money is being collected from all the streaming platforms back. So typically it's between 15 to 30%, right?
Yeah.
So you collect as a Nigerian artist with Nigerian streams, you manage to collect $400, you know. It comes to the distributor after you've gotten like 1 million streams, they're paying you $400. It gets to the distributor will take their own whatever percentage, let's say 15%. They take 15, 50% from that and give you your change. Now, when you collect your own change as an artist, you probably have a manager, you have a producer that you did not pay for production. So they have co-rights. Maybe they have like 30%. So by the time you pay your manager, pay your producer the percentage, pay your legal team and all that. Legal team will typically, if they're not on retainer, like flat out payments, they're just on retainer with you based on what you earn in your royalties, is typically 10%. They collect 10%, your manager takes typically 20%. Your music producer that wasn't paid upfront will typically take between maybe 30 to 40%. How much are you left with as an artist? Now, that's one way. The other way is this. If your distribution company or your record label gave you an advance, just like the Alaba gave you the advance back in the day. So they've paid you forward for the future revenue that you will get. They will collect their money, so nothing comes to you
Mm.
until their money is complete before you now go back to the split of. So let's say you sign a 4-year term with them, 4-year term, and they gave you 1 million naira upfront, for example. Until they make their 4 million naira, I mean their 1 million naira, you're not going to get a dime.
Mm.
If it takes them 4 years to make their 1 million naira, that is it. Once it is 4 years, it ends. So you either take your music back or you continue with them. If they make their 1 million naira in the first year, the remaining 3 years, you now begin to split your money 70-30 or 85-15, depending on what your arrangement is. Do you get what I mean? But for the period of time where they are recouping their money, it's called recoup, you don't get a dime. Now,
Mm.
some management company or representative are able to negotiate a situation where they can give handouts. For example, while you're recouping, you have to pay the artist at least 5% so
Mm.
that the artist is not left totally dry. And then after you recoup, we then so 5%. Then after we recoup, we can now go back to our 80-20 in favor of the artist, depending on these
Mm.
things. So when they say that, oh, artists don't really have money, is two things. The first thing is the artist is not making enough money from streaming because the stream, number one, maybe it doesn't have enough listeners. Number two, maybe the listeners are predominantly Nigerians. So it's not a lot of money. And the money will go through different channel and everybody will take their cut before it gets to the artist. Because the life of an artist or of a creative is such that people work for you for almost free with the
Hmm.
hope that something good is going to happen. Because I know a question might come up to say, why are they splitting that money so much? These people who have been
Yeah.
working for you for free, you are not paying them salaries. So yes, they deserve it. All right. So is either that then so by the time the money reaches the split, the cost that remains that touches the artist and it's not a lot of money. The
Hmm.
second one is this: the artist has collected the money upfront and has probably do you
Hmm.
get? And one of the
Yeah.
ways artists blow money is some of them are just irresponsible with money. Some of them put the money back into the music. So the record label or the distribution company gives them XYZ amount of money, right, as an advance. They use most of those monies after they split and give everybody what everybody is supposed to get. They use most of those monies to do marketing, to do PR, to do whatever. And there's nothing left to be spent for them, And then they're back to zero. And then God forbid the music doesn't do well.
Hmm.
Right? So there's enough freebies for artists to be able to reach a particular audience or a global stage. But the downside to that is that by the time it starts to pay, all those people that are working for you, quote and unquote, for free, gets paid.
Hmm.
So it's either you have somebody or you have money enough to pay people, put them on a salary and be paying them so that you own all your thing when it comes back. But we find that a lot of people who go into the creative sector are people who probably don't have alternatives to live life than to just harness their talents. And what
Hmm.
that will mean is you're calling somebody to come and be a part of your journey and invest themselves in your own dream. Of course, they have to get a piece of the pie. So that's what happens when people say, oh, artists don't have money. Oh, all these things is fake. All these things. Yeah, because the lifestyle of a creative is a very, 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 very daunting one. It's very, 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 very difficult. And it is leverage heavy. If I know
Hmm.
that if you see 1 million naira, you will jump at it.
Hmm.
I will do everything I can to maximize my investment, right? And someone who is just desperate will sign a 1 million naira deal and with terms that are not favorable. At the time, they are favorable because it will quench his thirst, it will quench his hunger at the time. But then when money starts to come in, all of a sudden you just believe that they are collecting too much from me. You have forgotten the time that you did not have 1 naira to eat. Chicken. So yeah, it's dicey. It's very, very dicey. So
Hmm.
yeah, I hope I'm able to like answer the
Yeah,
question
what about
properly.
promotion? How do you promote now? Because now we have many people here and there, keyboardists in church, also doing a side hustle as a producer and producing for church choir members. You know what I'm talking about. So
If you can
many of them,
afford,
yeah,
go
I'm
on.
coming. Many of them have audio mark account. They have this account, they have this account, and they are hustling to get people to subscribe to go and listen. How do they get their money? How do they promote their work? It's another side of the streaming
If you
dynamic.
have if you have a camera phone today, if you can afford to have a phone with camera today, you should have no excuse with promoting your work or marketing your work.
Hmm.
Because what that says is you probably need zero, almost nothing in terms of cash to promote yourself.
Hmm.
Because to use social media, for example, well, it's not necessarily free, you have data, but I do know, and I say this carefully, I think that most of us somehow are able to squeeze out money to buy data on our phones.
Yeah.
Right. So instead of scrolling Instagram incessantly, going and watching videos and stuff that doesn't concern you, use that data for something productive. If you're
Hmm.
a classical musician, for example, as you practice, film it, post it. It doesn't cost you anything.
Hmm.
Curate, curate an experience. Give people like Amebo, people like Sofo. But the good thing is that you can curate what people have access to.
Hmm.
All right. So sell your brand as an individual and not as a talent. That's one
Hmm.
of the cheapest ways to go. Give people a sneak peek into who you really are and not what you are. I don't know if that makes sense. So, for
Yeah.
example, I'm here I'm having this conversation. I'm in my home studio, I'm at home, and everything I've said that I've been talking about since is literally what I play, what I do, right? But which has actually also formed the fabric of my life. And I've also said things that has to do with my own personal experience, things that I've had to do, things that I've encountered. What that has done is that, and also when we started, you said that I should tell people about myself.
Mm.
What that has done is that it has given people an extra sneak peek into my life as a person. And what that will then do is some people will leave this meeting today and look for me on social media and follow me. Some people will send me a DM and ask me questions. Well, they want to know more. Some people, do you get what I mean? And what I've done is, as
Definitely.
much as I'm acting, I'm trying to share knowledge. My brand is a little bit elevated.
Mm.
I don't know if that makes sense.
Definitely.
Do you get?
It does. Definitely.
And that is all because we can afford to open a camera right now and speak while you are how many miles away from me and I'm here. So
Mm.
if you can have a camera phone and you can pull data on it, you don't have an excuse.
Wow.
Now, the other part will then be how do you then you have to then be strategic. Know what you have and learn to find the people that like or love or that needs what you have.
Mm.
Is where the hard work is. And that is why there are people called marketing persons. There are people called PR personnel and stuff. But again, you don't have to hire those people if you don't have money. You can learn everything.
Wow.
You can afford to have data on your phone. Again, you can go on YouTube. YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, they release material every day on how you can maximize their platforms.
Mm.
Go and find it. Understand what it means when somebody say demography.
Yeah.
If you say oh, demography, sex, like male, female, understand what those things mean. Purchasing power, purchasing decision.
Mm.
Do you get? Oh, sometimes and one of the excuses we give ourselves is to say, oh, Nigeria is a poor country. People don't have money to buy things. You'll be shocked that the an average Nigerian's pocket is not what dictates his purchasing decisions. That is why
Mm.
you find someone, that's why you find someone who is living in a terrible condition of a house and is not eating 3 square meal, but is carrying an iPhone 13 or iPhone 14. And it's not because they are using that iPhone to work.
Mm.
So the psychology to why people buy or pay for something is not the same thing as what is in their pocket.
Oh.
So these are the extra knowledge that one needs to get for one to know where to place what they are doing. Okay, I'm a classical musician. Who are the kind of people that enjoy classical music? How do I find them to position my material in front of them? Oh, you
Mm.
think classical music is for the elite, for example. So where do I find the elite? Are the elite a lot more active on Instagram? Are they a lot more active on Facebook? What community do they belong to on these platforms? For example, if you are looking for the elite of the elite, I don't think TikTok is for you. TikTok
Mm.
can help you, gather different type of people to have numbers. But if you're looking for like the elite, you want your product to be for the elite. I don't think the Micadino guys and stuff have time for TikTok. You will still find a lot of them on Facebook. And because
Mm.
there are communities on Facebook and all that stuff. So maybe you should focus a lot more on Facebook.
Mm.
Push. I'm not saying don't post on these other platforms, right? But I'm saying if you're trying to target certain people, understand how they think.
Mm.
A lot of company executive and top level people, they don't really do stuff on Instagram because of the kind of things that Instagram pushes to them.
Mm.
Nudity and all those things like that. Some of them have left Instagram. Some of them are on Instagram, but they are not active. They only see or they only go to look for what they want to see. How do you get your product in front of them? Those are the kind of people that will book you for private events. Those are the kind of people that will book you for, high profile, top level events.
Mm.
End of the year parties in their company, oil and gas companies. Do you
Wow.
understand what I mean? Those are the kind of
Definitely.
people. Yeah. So then you now need to, that's extra research. And I tell you, it doesn't cost you a dime. All you need is a smartphone and data. And I bet that a bulk of us already have that, but we're not using it in the ways that we're supposed to use it.
Hmm.
Yeah. So I think that's how you promote and market yourself in general.
Wow. Thank you so much. Let's go one more question, then we'll open for our friends and colleagues quickly. And it's been an interesting journey with you today. Okay. I have three options, but I want to go for one. Let's do live shows because it's also
Okay.
I'm trying as much as possible to bring the popular music and Nigerian classical music ecosystem together now. So
Yeah.
because the people we have with us here, we have classical musicians, we have pop musicians, we have everybody here. It's a multidisciplinary platform. So I'm trying as much as possible to meet the need of everyone seated here or joining us from. And we on those that will see this video on our YouTube page as soon as possible. So let's talk about live shows. What's the difference? Okay, of course, we've discussed the digital platform, the digital, but what about life? Life, what's the economy of the life? The gig economy, what's it like?
Uh, I'm trying to look for, there's a document that I stumbled on recently. Hopefully I can find it. But more than 50%, in fact, more than 60% of the revenue in the music industry in Africa,
Yeah.
right? More than 50, 60% of the revenue is generated by live shows,
Hmm.
generated from live shows. More than 50%. In fact, more than 60% actually, right?
Wow.
So it's still, we are human beings are experiential beings. I don't know if that makes any sense. We
Hmm.
value experiences, right? Um, as much as we spend a lot of time on the internet, on social media, right? The impact live shows or live experiences leaves on us is more than whatever it is that we're scrolling and looking at digitally,
Hmm.
right? So, which is why, again, you will find that when you go for events, you think that people cannot buy a ticket of 10,000 naira to attend your event. Oh, things are expensive. Uber to the place, whatever, whatever. You will be shocked that people will go extra miles to be there
Hmm.
because they want to feel a sense of I am with the cool kids.
Hmm.
Because they want to wear that particular clothes that they've been looking for where to wear it to.
Wow.
There's a lot of psychology to these things. There's one needs to study the human behavior, right? So live shows are as important and as viable and as big as it has always been, even up until today, because of this simple and almost negligible things that you can't you always you we think are not there because of the noise we hear on
Hmm.
news and all that stuff. Oh, poverty capital of the world. Oh, the inflation is at 30 something percent. Oh, petrol is at this. People will not go out anymore. Traffic is crazier now even than before. People are still driving their cars. Someone who drives to work and is already used to driving cannot fathom the idea of having to jump buses today. They will do whatever they need to do to fuel their car and drive it.
Hmm.
So people will go for events that are properly curated with solid experience for various reasons. They might not even come because of the artist or whatever. By the time you figure out the kind of people that go for that event, you want to feel among. There's a sense of, what does it feel like? The sense of acceptance. Oh,
Hmm.
I went to the same event that the copy went to. Oh, I was at the same event that that the Olukoya was at. Oh, I was at the same event that Whiskey attended. Oh, I attended a Burna Boy concert. That feeling it gives you is why people will buy the ticket.
Hmm.
They want to take pictures so they can post on social media.
Hmm.
I know of somebody that saves money from January to December so that she can travel to Maldives or any of these Caribbean, well, getaway, Barbados, and all that. In December, she goes with a lot of clothes. She snaps enough picture that can carry her for another 1 year. So month in, month out, week in, week out, she will be posting different pictures at different locations with different clothes. You will think she's not in Nigeria. And this person I'm talking about does not have a job per se. She scraps the money however she can scrap it. Maybe she a small gig. She doesn't have like a 9 to 5 or a proper job. It's just like gig economic kind of thing. She gathers all the money together and travels in December to she curates. So when you see her, there's a perception. So people do our money is going into the government, the Maldives government pocket.
Mm,
Nigerians are coming there, the poverty capital of the world. Why? Because they've curated an experience that
mm,
you want to have. You want to be part of the people that will be listed in history that attended or went to Maldives at the same time that Temi Otedola was there.
mm.
And that's why the influencer market is also very, very big. That's why a show promoter will invite an influencer to their space because by the time you know that Pokoli is going to be here, you want to go. By
Mm,
the time you hear that Burna Boy is going to be there tomorrow, you want to go. And you probably don't have that money, you will find it. People will find it. Oh,
mm,
I can't wear this clothes at home because my parents will not like it or my husband will not like it. But I have it and I want to really wear it. This is an opportunity for me to wear these clothes. You go and
mm,
take photos. Yeah, I'm telling you, those are the things that are influencing people's decision.
mm.
So the gig economy is a very viable one if you can put together an experience and sell a narrative that this is where the coolest thing is happening.
Okay, quickly, can we convert this to the classical music scene now for music graduates,
Yes,
pianists,
exactly.
choral
As a
conductors, choral
pianist,
directors, commercial choral groups, even choir? Because I know
yes, you
the choral
can.
group industry is big in Nigeria, but
Have you
it's only
seen?
big on is on pro bono. You sing past
No,
festival, they clap for you. That's all we are doing festival. That's it. It's just an experience economy. So
have
how
we
do we
asked
turn that to a
ourselves?
gig? Yeah,
So the fact that you said that it's an experience economy, that's your way in. Have you heard of these people, 500 choir, run by Shalom Matthew?
definitely.
Have you wondered why these guys are getting bigger and bigger? Are they selling tickets for their shows? I don't think so. But every now and then they are calling for auditions, they are getting bigger and bigger and doing massive events. Because he's cool. Shalom was able to find a way to make choral gospel singing cool.
Yeah, yeah.
It became so
That's our
cool
point.
that it became so cool that people wants to be that part of the choir, even though they can't sing, or they want to attend the event to know what it feels like to hear 500 people sing.
Hmm,
And then you see the way they dress, very posh, classy, and modest.
hmm,
It's an experience. As a classical musician, as a piano player, for example, classical piano player, how do you appear cool? How do you perform your music in a cool way? How do you curate your content? There's a lady on social media. She attended Muson. She calls herself Piano Goddess. I think she has 1 or 2 million followers on Instagram.
wow.
Do you know how she curate? What she teaches kids how to play the piano. If you go and look at her page on Instagram, the Piano Goddess, I think that's what she is. If you see the way she curates her content, you will understand why she has so much followers.
Hmm,
And the clientele, like she has solid high profile clients
that's
because she
business.
made it look cool. Right from school days, her name is I think her name is Toby or something. Right from school days, we've already known her as a fashionista. She likes to fashion. She likes to, make sure she's always, you can't catch her on fresh. That was her modus operandi, never to be caught on fresh.
Hmm,
She was the only girl that will come to school and she will wear heels. And she wasn't bad at the performance, so she was good with piano playing.
Hmm.
She was great at what she was doing as a pianist. But she had been curating this brand since. She will wear heels to school, she will wear gown, her hair is well done, she has lipstick, whatever, everything, pam pam. So if you go to her social media right now, that's what she's selling.
Hmm.
How can, and I'm not saying, oh, you have to wear a wig or you have to, if it doesn't align with your values, but that doesn't stop you from looking cool and decent and presentable.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Adedeji. Yes, I intentionally directed our path this way because particularly this is a university platform, and one of the things we champion is good quality and music education. So we are not just producing good musicians, we are also producing, telling people how to market, how to package, because the product has its own place, then also the way you package it. And I
Mhm.
hope the Nigerian community, the classical musicians, the professors, the universities, we see this and also imbibe, borrow one or few things. Yeah, I said it earlier, and I really meant what I mean, that we are taught piano playing, we are taught all this in university, but you are not taught how to make money. You only taught how to make. So how to make money in most cases, from what our brother said today, is that it's another layer of training, and that's what we are discussing
Oh yeah.
today.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I hope our friends and colleagues will tap into this and run with these ideas. So and we need to open that to our friend. Definitely, I think I want to bribe Mr. Adedeji. We are still coming back. There's a lot to dig in. Yeah, we can't finish this conversation today. At this point, let's open for our
What are you
friends.
using to bribe me? What are you using to
Yeah,
bribe me?
I'm bribing. Yes, I'm bribing you. Yeah,
Let's go,
so
let's go, let's go, let's
we
go.
are still going to have you. We are still going to have a follow-up session on this. This is so
No
huge and
problem.
it's very important. So, but
No
let's
problem.
open for our colleagues briefly and we close for the day. Okay, friends and colleagues, I'm sure you have questions and things you need clarification on, please. Kindly use your mic and just ask your question and let's run this for the next few minutes. So I know you have a question. Please, you are welcome to ask a question just for a few minutes, and let's see. We can take up to one or two or three. Then I'm sure you've had it all from the process, the beginning down into different angles, But the question is, what is your own take, and how do you have question for Mr. Dideji? What's your own, take on this?
Ask,
Let's
oh, I'm here to serve. Oh, ask. Oh.
Okay, who is the first person to come in? Let's see. We are friends. Yeah. Okay, while we are waiting for that, I like to share with us our YouTube link. Uh yes, the first, yeah, I'm sharing this only not for the reason that I want to ask you to follow us, but also because this particular page is not just a YouTube page, you know, it's actually an experiment in curatorial practice, archival spaces where you can go anytime to get knowledge. One thing about our society is that we are not so good in documentation. I'm not so
Mm.
good in documentation. Like one of the things we discussed today, most of these things were available in one way or the other, but because we don't have a good approach to documentation, some of us will say, oh, in Nigeria, we don't have this. It has never happened in Nigeria. That's not true. It's because somebody has not documented that reality. And those who have it are not even making it accessible. So that's why we are having this kind of page at the organ house, at Mountaintop University, Department of Music. So this is a project that we are launching to curate important conversation like this. So scholars, business people can always access it free. It's open access. So you can go there to learn about education, and anytime you will be sure that you have good quality. So what we are doing is alternative space where you can learn things that perhaps you are not able to get in the classroom or at the seminar stages. So that's, but we have different resources there, from classical music performances, from composition down to business right now. Then that also into, documentation, artistic practice, philosophies, music research, different stuff you can talk about within music. We have it there. So please take advantage of it. Just with a click, you can get there and follow us. Definitely drop us a comment, one or two things you want us to add to it, or yeah, if there are things you want us to do, we'll be happy to also include it on the platform also. But right now, I'm waiting for the question. Who is going to jump in first, then before the second person? Okay. So kindly raise your hand in case you have a question. We're still on. Okay, while we're waiting for the question, just a few minutes more. Let me just quickly follow up on some of the things you said earlier. Again, I'm going to be very partial about it, because I don't know why I'm so keen on classical musicians in Nigeria today. Yeah. So let's talk about those who want to record, and what would be your advice for them? I mean, those who want to record, those who want to reach out to promoters, reach out to producers. How do they go about this?
A bit of research. Find who and what works for what you're trying to do, and just reach out to them. Just do it. Like, just reach out. So if you think, this studio is what works, or this promoter or whatever, again, like I said, whatever it is you're looking for, what works, prepare yourself. You're part of the whole thing, right? If it is to learn the music so well that the music is good to go, good to record, it's perfect condition. Get a couple professionals to help you, assess it. More like, when you write a book, people will proofread in a sense, and they endorse that, oh, it's good to go. Oh no, I think you should do this. Oh, I think you should do this. Get all that ready, and then put together a proposal. And when I say proposal, it doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be very methodical, academia or academic in a sense. Just reach out to people. People who people who like to work with value know how to spot value, right?
Hmm.
Um, Valuable people know how to spot value, right? So they're able to see that, oh, this thing is good value, or this thing is good, or whatever. And then, you might get 100 no's, but that one yes is what changes everything. All you need is one yes. And yeah, so just shoot, but be prepared. And once you're prepared, just shoot. Find who works for you, or who you think you would like to be, and then just shoot at them. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. Yes, as we close for today, first of all, I'd like to thank my brother, my friend, my colleagues. I said earlier, it's everything today. It's a professional colleague, the brother is everything. But I am quite, excited about, the journey you took us to today. Thank you so much. I really appreciate this. Like I said, we are probably going to have one more session on this, because I myself, I'm not sincere with you. I have to say something bigger, but this is a bigger thing in a different way. Thank you so much. This is so
Yeah.
big. Thank you.
There's a
Thank
question in the chat box, yeah. I mean,
Oh,
I think I can have one question before I leave.
okay, fine. As a songwriter, how do I put my work in front of A-list artists? Great.
Have you tried to put your work in front of a D list, a C list, a B list? Why are you going for A list? The A list artist wasn't born an A list artist. They worked their way up, right? They were once a D list artist. They were once a B list artist and the likes, and they grew to become A list. So, if I'm to rephrase your question, what you're asking is, how can I jump the ropes and start from the top? Right? Again, this is one of the mistakes we make in the creative sector. And I'm not saying it is not possible. It is possible, but that shouldn't be your goal. That shouldn't be a goal from the get-go, right? The first thing you should be asking yourself is, how do I build leverage so that an A-list artist would want to work with me?
Hmm.
That is what gives you the because you can actually get in front of an A-list artist today and write for them, and you will end up crying because they will not acknowledge you. You will not get your splits.
Hmm.
Davido runs you streets today, collect your song, you write for them, and the highest you will do is go on social media to rant. And if you are known by nobody, if you are quote and unquote a nobody, nobody will defend you. In fact, they will report your post, your page, and Instagram will take down your page because he has an army of fans that are willing to protect his image.
Hmm.
So you would end up doing pro bono with resentment, right? So build leverage to the point that A-list artists will want to work with you, and they will be quick to slap your name on the credits and give you what is due because you've worked for it. Start whatever list you are right now. Maybe you're a B list writer or Z list writer. I don't know. Find the Z list artists to start to write for them. If what makes you A list as a writer or even as a performer is the amount of success you attain. If
Hmm.
your Z list singer or musician blows up, he automatically moves to the top three list. And that automatically moves you as a writer to the top three list. So when I say top three list, I mean A, B, and C. And with that, a C list artist can look at you. You've jumped from Z to C. A B list artist can look at you. An A list artist can look at you.
Hmm.
Collaborate. Is this parallel or horizontal? Anyways, collaborate this way, not this way. This is how collaboration works.
Hmm.
You're the person on the same level as you are. Don't If you want to collaborate this way, it will fail. Most of the time, it fails. So
Wow.
collaborate this way first, and then yeah,
Yeah. Seminar. Thank you so much. I hope that question meets that person's need. That's when we use our iPhone. Oh, we have Ezinne Igbi. What is your advice to bridging the gap between academic music cycles, okay, and the general public to make Nigerian art music more accessible and relatable? Oh, we've had, of course, I'm coming. I will drop this on you. We've had a lot of this on this platform, of course. Please also, why is us answering your question and go to our YouTube page. We have series of this on there. But let me throw it to you, Mr. Adedeji.
okay.
Bridging
So
the
what are
gap
your
between
advice bridging the gap between the academic music cycle and the general public to make a Nigerian art to make Nigerian art music more
more
accessible
accessible and relatable?
to the simple answer is use the same medium that they use. The medium is there for everybody to use. All right. The reason it is more accessible to the general public and relatable is because the other general I'm trying to look for the name you used. The ones that are not academic are developing their content in ways that are relatable, and they are putting it on platforms that are easily accessible, right? So take your product or take your technical know-how out of the not just don't let it be confined to the four walls of a classroom. And I'm using that as a metaphor because you used the word academic here. Try and communicate whatever it is you have to offer in the music space on platforms that are accessible in ways that are relatable. And that's basically it. Technology has made it in a way that there is no gap between anything. It's just your choice to use it or not.
Hmm. Yeah, I think with in fact, okay, thanks for that question anyway. Zine Igbi. The point is we've discussed this earlier, and that's why I intentionally, if you notice from the beginning, try to bring in the classical, particularly Nigerian art music into this conversation. Yeah, the first
Yeah,
thing is the industry is one, according to Mr. Dedeji today. So the question
yeah,
is, when the classical music industry, Nigerian art music, the accessibility is not about the public, it's about us. I'm putting myself because I'm also in the university platform right now. So
yeah,
accessibility here is about, it's not about it's not about the platform outside. It's about we. How are we doing it? What are we composing? Uh,
yeah,
is it digestible?
yeah,
Because for instance, if I'm a composer and all I want to do in terms of composition is to tell people that I've learned counterpoint, I've learned how to use fugue, then I take one song, then I started experimenting. That is, it's only people of my type. that will, which is 4 or 1% of the society that will relate with that kind of thing, People just
Yeah.
want to enjoy. They want to make music. They want to, I'm sure you know what I mean. So the point is, we need to go back. This is very important for me because, and that's why I'm saying this. We scholars, trained composers, trained scholars, or whatever we are in this industry, we need to intentionally go back and talk to ourselves. How do we speak to the people? Yeah, and that's why I try to direct you to our YouTube page. In the last 2 years of this particular platform, we have we have been hammering, let's use that word, on how to make African art music, classical music, relatable to people, particularly in Nigeria. And I hope that makes sense to all of us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
My final thing to what you just said now is just you said like, oh, if you do the fugue and counterpoints, it's only people like yourself that can, relate to it and consume it. And the question, if I'm to take it a little bit extreme, safe, right?
Yeah.
How many times do we, even like people like us, even consume this music a day? Like, how often do we stream or try to listen to Bach's, French suites? Not often. So you are playing a losing game in a sense. I mean that in the most simplistic way. Like, yeah, we're
Mm,
already playing a losing game, right? And nobody's saying don't play the fugue, don't play the counterpoint, don't do the counterpoints. But how can you do it in a way that is cool, that interests any and everybody? They don't need to
mm.
understand what you're doing, but are they enjoying what you're doing? You know. So yeah.
Yeah, I think just make it fashionable. That's a word that has been on this platform in the last 2 months. Make it fashionable. Make it relatable. Yeah, just make it fashionable. I think that's it. Yeah, so in closing, thank you so much, everyone, and particularly to our presenter today. This is so insightful, Mr. Adedeji. Thank you so much. I expected a lot, but I saw a lot more. Thank you so much. Thank you,
You're
thank you,
welcome,
thank
sir. Thank you for having
you. Yeah,
me. Really appreciate every one of you here. Yes, thank you so much for having me. And I look forward to maybe a part two of this, because like you said, there's a lot
definitely.
of this. Yes, yes.
Definitely, there's a lot. This is just a kind of a tip of the iceberg. So we are still going to have you on a follow up for this one. Thank you so
No
much.
problem.
So, dear all, I'd like to quickly remind you we are having the African Art Music International Symposium here at the Organ House, Mountaintop University, from 16 to 18 July. Please make it a date with us. We are having Professor Kofi Agawu, so Omojola on ground. And also, a key component of this being on ground with us is a kind of like what we have been discussing, networking with people, like minds, people that can give us the spotlight. Okay, they can show us the way. I think that's the right word. And again, the people you move with determines where you are going. So we are inviting you to the organ house between 16 to 18. You can join us virtually, of course. We have an interesting lineup of presenters, performer. It's going to be a 2 day conversation, then a day artistic exploration, including a dedicated concert. Just watch out for that. And you see, definitely this week you see our new details and update on the programming and how you can register, particularly those who just want to join. We already have presenters, and we are so happy we have an interesting outline, of presenters not from the US, Canada, Germany, South Africa, wherever. We have a lot of them that you are going to engage their work, in different ways. So I am inviting you specially. Um, please make a plan for that. So lastly, please check out our YouTube page. I am really serious about this. It is a space that we need to follow and spread the word. Don't be the one who only have access to it. Share it with friends, with students, please. With students, let's do undergraduate students, let them know about it. The resources there, like the one we had today, is eye opener. This can change somebody's destiny or career, please. And that's why we are doing what we do. We are intentional about it, to take knowledge to people wherever they are. And that's why we are doing. So please help us in promoting this idea. Yeah. Thank you so much. Until next week. Thank you. Thank you so much. Mr. Adedeji, thank you so much for today. God bless you. And everyone, thank you. Bye.